Episode 3 of the Fantasy Football Network's Launch League. I am joined by the Lady Shotcaller, Amber herself. We are getting you guys ready for your Week 2 matchup. So we're going to run through some start and sit discussion, and we're going to take a look at the team that Amber has inherited very generously in the Launch League this year. So we'll kick things off right away, Amber. First of all, thank you very much for coming on tonight and taking a look at this team that you've come to inherit in the Launch League. Week 1, you finished as the 8th out of the 14 teams in the league. So not bad for taking control of a team that was not drafted by yourself. Just looking at it quickly, you got Tom Brady as a starting quarterback, DeAndre Swift, Lenny Fournette as your RB1 and RB2. Now, JuJu and Joshua Palmer were your 2 starting receivers this week, but that's because they were playing on Thursday Night Football. Cole Kmet starting tight end, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brandon Cooks in the flex, and Matt Gay and the Broncos defense. What are your overall thoughts on the team's performance last week, and how are you liking this team overall?
Well, it's not a team that I would have drafted. There's a few players that I really enjoy. Having, two Lions is not I'm not a big fan of that. That's not something I would have done. I do enjoy both players, but
Right.
having 2 of them is not something I would have done. Tom Brady's not somebody I draft. I know that he's reliable in fantasy most of the time, but last week was not it. But I usually don't draft Brady. I usually pick him up later in the season. Through trading and whatnot. But, for me, I love Lenny Fournette. Obviously, we've got some hammy issues there, so I'm a little concerned. JuJu, I wanted to give a shot. I wanted to give a shot this week. I saw what I saw, and we know that Casey moves the ball around. So it's ultimately like Casey's unreliable when it comes to fantasy. I love them as a team. I date a Chiefs fan, so, it's all red and gold over here besides blue and orange. But, and again, Palmer, I got a garbage touchdown at the end of the game. Yeah. Thank God. I was listening to a few other analysts that I've been talking to about Palmer, and, he's like, I got to stick with my gun. So I said, all right, I'm going to roll with you. So, overall, it's not a team I would have drafted, but I'm going to make best with what I've got. And I think that there's an opportunity I can make some good moves here. So.
Absolutely. I mean, you didn't draft the team, and you're sitting higher than I am in the league right now. So you're doing better than me. And I like the fact that you touched on JuJu, because I actually wanted to go there for the roster. It's something that I think has been concerning a lot of JuJu owners now after the first 2 games. It's not that he hasn't been utilized, but he hasn't been used as much, I think, as JuJu owners expected to kick off the year. I think people who drafted JuJu heading into the season expected him to be the focal point of the offense behind Travis Kelce. But as we've seen, Patrick Mahomes, with the magic he's made, he's thrown touchdowns to I don't know how many different targets on that offense. Are you expecting JuJu Smith to have a little bit of a bigger role in the offense moving forward? Or do you think that he's just going to be your 6, maybe 7 points per week and maybe get a touchdown every, 3rd, 4th week type of guy?
You know what? I'm going to have to go with the latter on that because, having really been entrenched with the KC game for the past 8 years with, again, the man I date, I know that they're going to keep moving the ball around and they're going to be unpredictable. And I know Mahomes is going to go wherever the target is. And if JuJu's there just to, to get a block in, to get McKinnon in or whatever the case is. I mean, look at what Kelce did last week, right? Like we expect him to ball out every single week, but Mahomes isn't worried about us. He's worried about his team. So right. I think that I might have to put JuJu down for a while and then hold on to him. Obviously there's so much value there. The capital was high on JuJu for a lot of people. So I think I'm going to put him down for a couple weeks after I saw what I saw this week. So
yeah, it's unfortunate because honestly you weren't buying in too high on JuJu. Fortunately, he wasn't going as like a top 20 receiver, but a lot of people like myself expected a little bit more from him to start the season. But I don't know. Maybe it will happen, especially in that Chiefs offense. You never really know what can come out of there. Now we're gonna look at your bench really quickly. Josh Jacobs and Hunter Renfrow are the two guys I want to highlight. Both on the Raiders. You are both benching them this week as of right now. Renfrow last week, decent. Jacobs, decent. Do you think that they've just kind of fizzled out as fantasy options now that Devontae Adams has kind of stole the show in Las Vegas?
Well, I think moving forward, so defenses are going to pick up on what they're doing with Adams. They're gonna hit him with a lot of coverage, and I think that Renfro has an opportunity to bounce back when it comes to fantasy relevance, at least. I've got Renfro in a lot of leagues, and I'm really hoping that we move forward. I'm not sure where I'm putting this team yet. I might move some things around again. It's weird when you don't draft your own team, you kind of
Right.
question, even though I have these players in other leagues, I'm questioning where I want them. So ultimately, I think that Jacobs is somebody I'm going to kind of keep an eye on. Renfro, I still have a lot of faith in. I think that there's going to be a lot of movement with him, and I think that there's opportunity for some scores there too. Because Adams is going to be covered. People are going to start picking up on what they're putting down, and they're going to cover him a lot. So
Yeah. And last week too, like that was a dogfight against the Chargers, right? Like that was a really close game. So I mean, I'm interested to see what happens against Arizona this week, who
yeah.
took an absolute beating from the Chiefs last week. So I mean, back-to-back wins from the Chiefs. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out this week. Personally, I'd also be sitting Renfro and Jacobs unless they're your, ultimately last option, just to wait and see what the production looks like if teams adapt, like you said, to Devontae Adams. We'll move to some start-sit discussion now. Just recently, Michael Pittman Jr. has been ruled out for Sunday's game against the Jags. Alec Pierce is also out for the Colts against the Jaguars this week. Are you looking at possibly picking up somebody like Paris Campbell, especially if you are a Michael Pittman Jr. owner, to start him this week? Do you think that's of value, especially against a team caliber like the Jacksonville Jaguars?
So right before we started this, I was like, I got to see where I'm going. I only have Pittman in one league, luckily. So I think that I'm going to, with my matchup, I think that I'm going to start Campbell. I think that there is opportunity for targets there. Obviously, there's not much else going on when it comes to the receiver core. So I think that there's an opportunity for him to be fantasy relevant this week. And I think up against the Jags, it's still questionable about how they're going to perform on the defensive side. So I think I'll grab him in. And again, it all depends on the matchup, though. Don't pick him up if you know what I mean. If you have a stronger receiver on the other side, of your
Right.
matchup this week, right? That's the most important part. So I'm going to grab him in my league because the matchup isn't that scary. So
Yeah, no, and that's the thing is that I don't expect Paris Campbell to put up a 20-point fantasy week. Like, I'm just saying that without all those receivers, the ball's got to go somewhere. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor will be the focal point of the offense. There's no doubt in that. But I think Paris Campbell, his value has obviously been increased for week 2 without Pittman in the lineup. The last guy that has been really worrisome for fantasy owners after week 1 is Najee Harris. Running backs, receivers, some had really bad games in week 1, but Najee Harris had an okay game, but came out of the game with an injury in the fourth quarter, and it looked slightly serious. He's going to play this week, but if you had Najee Harris in another league, you don't have him in the launch league, but if you did, would you be starting him this week?
Ooh, so this is a tough one because I don't really have another choice.
Yeah.
Najee was a big pickup. I will be moving forward with trying to sell Najee, and I want to make sure that the right deal comes along. Obviously, you need to get what you paid for. But I'm gonna have to start him this week. In hopes that he's cleared, right? He's not questionable. He's cleared of all, of questionability. So for me, I have to start him. I think that you should try to sell. Foot injuries are no joke. Growing up, playing football and being around people who play football, it's no joke. When you have a foot injury, it gets re-aggravated. So I would definitely keep an eye on trying to sell and sell while he's not questionable. I think that's your best bet because then you're going to get the best deal. So I have to start him, but moving forward, you should keep an eye on some other backs.
Absolutely, especially at the running back position too. It is probably the most vulnerable position in football to have injuries. So when you see an injury like that come up week 1 to a running back that was going in the first round, it's nerve-wracking for fantasy owners. So again, I think I'm starting him this week. I don't think I have another choice unless I have a really, really deep running back core on my roster, but I wouldn't expect the 2021 Najee Harris production, especially this week. I think he'll have limited production against the Pats. That wraps up the start sit, but obviously you are a Bears fan, okay? I don't know if you made it obvious enough. Listen, last week they surprised me, all right? They beat the Niners, and now they're going up against the Packers this week. Are you expecting like a miracle to happen this week, a 2-0 start for the Chicago Bears?
When it comes to Green Bay in Lambeau, I will tell you that miracles happen for the Bears, but also, so Rodgers is coming back with a vengeance, right? He's coming back from a really poor game. He doesn't like the way they played, and he is something special, right? Justin Fields is nowhere near the caliber of quarterback that Aaron Rodgers is. We know our defense is questionable at best. Roquan Smith is a great leader, and I think that he can hold them, but I don't see the W coming out, but I do see fantasy relevance for the Bears players. Okay. I played Komet last week in a lot of leagues, hoping for, big numbers. Got nothing, goose egg. So
Right.
I do think that he's going to come back. Khalil Herbert is your sleeper of the week. And I do think that Montgomery is going to put up the points that we drafted him for. So they're gonna run the ball. And I think that they're going to keep using the defense they designed is built for tight ends. And I think that they're going to use it accordingly this week. Last week was just a monsoon, so it's really complicated to even see how they truly played and how they've been practicing. So
Exactly.
I don't see a W, but I do see some fantasy relevance. If you have a super flex, I say play Justin Fields. He's going to play his heart out, man.
Exactly. And I really hated how it ended up last week in a rain game like that. You can't expect the passing offense for either the Niners or the Bears, who have been good. And as a giant Darnell Mooney fan this year overall, I was really excited to see him play week 1. And then when I saw it was raining, I knew that it just wasn't going to end up well for a young talent like that. But this week, as you mentioned, I would not be surprised, especially in a rivalry game like that, to see some points put up on the board throughout that passing offense, and especially for Darnell Mooney. So I'd love to look out for that. That's going to wrap up this episode. So good luck to all you guys in your week 2 fantasy matchups this week. Amber, thank you very much for coming on today.
Shout out to you and to the Fantasy Football Network for having me. I love being a part of the squad, and Melanap also. So thank you so much. Got to put it out there.
Hey,
but
just like
Sammy.
Might as well plug the Las Vegas Fantasy Football Network. Everything.
Yeah, let's get them all in there. Awesome. Thank you. Good luck in football this week, guys.
I appreciate you guys. All right, peace out. See you guys in the next episode.